something different, something real, something to explain just how I feel. Something different, something real, something to explain just how I feel.
Hello everyone, I'm Franklin Taggart and I am the host of the Artist to Artist concert series at the Museum of Art Fort Collins, and our concert for the Mask show has had an interruption, as everything else has had an interruption because of the COVID-19 stay-at-home order. But we are still going to let the show go on, and I just wanted to let you know we've got 8 of the artists, over 200 artists participating this year, but 8 of those artists are with us in this program. We're going to share some of their work, and we're going to share some of their inspiration. We also have a great musician for you tonight. Antonio Lopez is a fantastic singer-songwriter and guitar player, and he's going to be sharing several of his songs tonight. We've got a great lineup ready for you right now, and I just want to thank you for tuning in. We'll have several announcements to make as well throughout the evening, because not only is the Mask Show a great art experience, it is also one of the primary fundraisers for the Museum of Art Fort Collins, and we are not going to break that tradition this year for any reason. So I'd like to introduce right now Lisa Hatchadorian, who is the director of the Museum of Art. Lisa, how are you today?
I'm good, Franklin. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Listen, tell us a little bit about how this whole lockdown has affected the museum. This happened right as you were getting ready to hang the Mask show, which is one of the biggest shows of the year. Tell us a little bit about how this has impacted you all.
Well, as with every small business and every small nonprofit, it's pretty devastating to some degree. I mean, we shut down our shelter exhibition, Crafting a Safe Home, on March 15th. And right around then was the same time when the virus was hitting and stay-at-home orders were starting. So we were slated then to go into 3 weeks of installation and open Masks up on April 3rd through May 1st. And so looking at all the information that we had, it seemed prudent to close the museum down for the indefinite future. So right now, we're still closed through May 15th, and that's a moving target. And as you can probably imagine, closing down when our major fundraiser is supposed to be on exhibit, and we're supposed to open our doors and have over 5,000 people come through the museum for the month is not great for our bottom line, because right now, basically all income sources are shut down, whether that's admissions income, membership income. One lucky thing is that we did get a lot of our sponsorship income for Masks before this all started, so that was good. But all other sources are kind of shut down right now. And also not having the exhibition open physically is a huge detriment too, because it's such a pleasure to be able to see all the creativity in person with all of these 215 masks, and doing this for the past 16 years has been such a treat and so wonderful for the community. So like other museums, we're trying to shift that to a virtual event. So what we're going to be doing is opening up the Masks exhibition and silent auction for an online auction starting on May 6th, and that'll go through the end of June, through June 28th. And if we can, we slated the last 2 weeks of June to hopefully open the museum up and bring some people in as we can. And if we can have any kind of event, we will. That's not set yet. So that's kind of where we are right now with Masks.
Tell us what the URL for the website is, Lisa.
Sure, it's moafc.org, so moafc.org.
Lisa, tell us a little bit. You said there are 215 artists in the show this year. How does that stack up compared to previous years? Is that the most you've had, or is it about the same as last year?
I think it's a little bit more than last year. I mean, we usually make about 225 masks. That's about all that we could ever possibly fit within the space. And our waiting list for becoming a mask artist has grown over the years. And so it depends. Some artists we give masks to and they don't end up creating one, and then we go to the waiting list. But 215 it is up there in terms of quantity.
What portion of your budget is gained through the mask fundraiser? About
a quarter. So okay. I think this year we were hoping to net about 108,000 total.
Okay, so let's make it happen, folks. Let's shoot for 150 and see what happens.
Oh, we'd love that.
Well, Lisa, thanks for all the work that you're doing for Fort Collins and for the arts and culture here. And I can't wait for the museum to be open again.
Well, us too. And thank you everyone so much for your support and for loving masks so much. This is such an incredible community event, and we love doing it and hope you love coming to it. So thank you so much, and enjoy this beautiful house concert that you're going to come to.
Highway 160 across the Vita Pass, past the Acorn where we stopped for gas. The smell of pinon, the earthy note of fall. Going to the city. After we'd fill up, we'd catch our 25. We'll start spinning faster for the rest of the divide. So when you grow up, you dream of when you were young. But in those days, you couldn't wait for these to come. Going to the city. Going to the city. Going to the city. Further up north, my scars up on the land. Zeros and ones replace the heart and the hand. Is this a plot twist, or is it part of the plan? To grow further from nature is the nature of the man. Going to the city. Going to the city. Going to the city. Grow further from nature is the nature of the man. To grow further from nature is the nature of the man. To grow further from nature is the nature of the man. To grow further from nature is the nature of the man. Going to the city. 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 Going to the city.
The artist that I'd like to introduce right now is Jill Mott, and Jill is a multimedia artist and primarily known in this area as a photographer, but she is also just an extraordinary creator with a variety of media. So Jill, welcome to the Artist to Artist show.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled and flattered to be here.
Have you done a mask show before?
Yes, I have. This is my third mask, and I think probably my favorite.
What makes this your favorite?
This mask really became more about community than just me as an artist. My mask is full of found objects, including old cameras. And I asked for donations from the people that I knew for donations if they had old cameras and equipment that they were rid of. And I was really surprised at the people who came out and donated old cameras. And they all had some meaning to them. Someone's old father's camera or some film that was shot and really no one has any use for. So having those pieces really meant a lot to me. Each item has a way of preserving and holding a memory. So, for example, I used lenses, old lenses, as eyes on my mask. And what I think about is, what did this lens see? What did this lens photograph? Whose memories did it document? And so each little piece in the mask, I feel, has some kind of story.
Talk a little bit about what it was like to get that blank mask and to see what the shape was going to be and the different details. What was your first impression?
It was very round, very, very round. I thought there might be a few suns and moons out there in the show. And I don't really think about the final image with the shape. It's more about the problem solving of how do I make it work within this shape. And for me, the mask, I always want it to be 3D, sculptural. I want it to have those features of eyes and nose and lips and whatever else I can put on it. So I usually tend to build up those areas to make them more prominent. And this year was particularly challenging for me because I took it a step higher than I had in the past. In the past, I've used photographs, transferring them to fabric and collaging them and sculpting them. And this time I decided to use these camera pieces from different kinds of cameras and figuring out how to attach this to ceramic so it's not going to fall off and kill someone, number one, or just remain on the camera, or excuse me, the mask was a really big challenge. And that's where the community came in again. I have a wonderful friend with a lot of power tools, and we figured out some ways to attach heavy glass lenses to the mask. And I had a lot of brainstorming sessions with friends to give me those ideas of potential of attachment.
What were the stages of your process as you started to work with the mask?
I knew I wanted to use old camera pieces. That was a for sure thing. And it's very funny how you can break things not on purpose and be devastated, but it's a whole nother thing to actually take them apart intentionally. And that was something very new to me. And I had a lot of old cameras and very well made with really tiny, tiny screws. Mm-hmm. And that process was very long and arduous. And there was a lot of forcing and banging and throwing to try to get cameras apart. And I felt guilty about it. And I know that some people would think that was a little bit offensive, but the idea was to preserve the memory of the camera, but I had to get to the heart of it. Last year, I was inspired to think of a way to incorporate light. And this year I was able to do that, adding to my challenges where I used small little fairy lights behind the eyes to project And then I took it another step forward and used little images, and I don't know if your viewers can see that, but I'm a big fan of the old vintage kinds of Kodak and older types of advertisements from the 1900s of, in particular, females using cameras. And I wanted to honor that somehow. And I wanted to figure out how to use all aspects of photography. This is a mini canvas that I used as an experiment to see what could I use for glue and attachment, how could I use different film products, and this little experiment up here eventually became my eyelashes.
If somebody is interested in finding you online, what's the best way for them to do that?
Thank you for asking. You can find my website at jillpmottphotography.com. I'm also on Instagram with that same handle and have a little more of my personality on there. So I would love to get some interaction.
Jill, thank you so much for participating in the Artist to Artist concert and for participating in the Masks show for your third year. And we wish you all the best.
Well, thank you very much.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Teresa Funke, and I'm very excited and honored to be asked to participate in this event for the Masks exhibit. I've been a longtime supporter of the Masks exhibit, and I love the way it brings artists of all levels together. There are professional artists in the exhibit, and there are people who consider their art to be more a passion or a hobby. And in this exhibit, everyone sits side by side, and we celebrate the creativity in everyone. I was asked to read some selections from my book. This is Bursts of Brilliance for a Creative Life. And this book is actually based on my blog, which is also called Bursts of Brilliance for a Creative Life. And I've been writing that blog for 6 years. So I wanted to share a couple of entries from the book. And the first one came to me because, as many of us are sheltering in place, which means that we are not leaving our homes, it has occurred to me how grateful I am over the years to have spent time filling my house with art that I love. So I wanted to share this entry, which is actually called Where Do We Engage in Art? A writer friend asked me about my perfect place to read. My answer? My bed, under the warmth of my down comforter, reading a great novel in the soft light of my reading lamp. My kitchen table, with my morning newspaper and a steaming cup of coffee. My front porch, sitting in our Adirondack chair, catching up on my magazines and waving to the neighbors as they walk by. My study, in my comfy green recliner next to the bay window with my overly cluttered bookshelves behind me. My office, devouring the hundreds of books I use to research my World War II novels. My bathtub, on the rare occasion I have time to soak away my worries. My exercise bike, because reading helps the time fly. My big blue couch in my family room at the end of a long day when all I want to do is shut off my overworked mind. I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says, "A room without books is like a body without a soul." A quote from Cicero. I would take this one step further and say, a room without art is like a body without a soul. Music, literature, and art should surround us at all times. Wherever and however we engage with art is the best place to do it.
Our musician for the Masks Artist to Artist show is Antonio Lopez. Antonio is a friend of mine that I've known for many years now, singer-songwriter and great guitar player from Longmont area. Although I think, Antonio, you grew up, was it in Alamosa that you grew up?
Yeah, correct. I grew up down in southern Colorado in Alamosa. Good memory, Franklin.
It's been a while. I'm glad that just came to the surface. In any case, thanks so much for being our featured musician for the Masks show this year, Antonio. be interested to hear. You've seen some of the masks anyway. What are the impressions that you get from the different masks that you've seen?
Well, I think masks are really symbolic. You know, there's so many layers to them. Sometimes people could put on a mask and it's something that they could hide behind. Or sometimes people could put on a mask and it's a way to actually express parts that are inside of them in an outward way. So, I don't know. And then also just being an artist myself who's not really in the visual realm, who's more in the music realm, you know, it's just another means of expression, you know, like heck, like I'm just looking around my music room right here and I'm just seeing something on the wall here that I'm going to grab.
Okay.
I feel like I'm back at show and tell or something in grade school. But I'm going to show a little piece here that I made. I think this was maybe like my freshman or sophomore year in high school.
Oh, wow.
Cool. It was like a math project that we were doing. You know, it was just kind of like a general art class in high school. And it was supposed to be like a self-portrait, but through a mask, you know. And being that it was an academic exercise, there was some sort of things that we had to include. And being that was maybe 15 years ago or so, I can't really remember what those academic things that we were supposed to include were. But just to me, you know, it's like I was saying, like masks is something that we could choose to hide behind or something that we could choose to express more of ourselves through. And I think that's really powerful. I had no idea that there was so many artists that were a part of this show. Yeah. And while I'm sad that we're not going to be able to be in the museum at the same time, conversating with each other, seeing the art in real life, I think it's really cool that we're still pushing forward with this show and that people outside of Fort Collins are going to be able to see this exhibit. I think that's really cool.
Back behind my eyeballs, a movie house projector screen. I cast myself as a leading man, thinking that I was James Dean, wearing a black jacket, driving a silver sports car. Instead of this mongoose bicycle, my brother on the handlebars. Life has been tough since we lost our dad. Now our mom's dating some dude named Brad. He drives Dad's truck and he sits in Dad's chair, but it'll never replace him. Other side of the train tracks, pedal south of the water tower, dreaming I was a superhero with superhuman powers, dreaming that I could fly or harness electricity, just lead defeating the bad guys and marry the girl that's pretty. Life has been tough since we lost our dad. Now our mom's dating some dude named Brad. He drives Dad's truck and he sits in Dad's chair, but it'll never replace him. Pulling up to the driveway, leaning the bike against the tree. Porch door flies open, Brad's looking pissed. I hope that it's not with me. Life has been tough since we lost our dad. Now our mom's dating some dude named Brad. He drives Dad's truck and he sits in Dad's chair, but it'll never replace him.
The artist I'd like to introduce you to now is Mark Rosoff. And Mark, is this your first time participating in the Masks show?
Well, funny you should ask. I have been in virtually all the Masks shows with the exception of the first one and one I missed a few years ago, but I've been in the rest.
Can you tell us a little bit about your entry in this year's show and what your inspiration was? Tell us a little bit about what you've called it.
Transitioning, yeah. It was every year. It's an interesting evolution and trying to come up with another statement. But this year was relatively easy for me because I lost a good friend and a brother, and it kind of spoke to me about the idea that we're always in the movement towards another change, or changes are always happening. And as it turns out at the current time, that is somewhat of an understatement. But the fact is we're all always in transition. And it's interesting how we talk about it as an event that has a start and a stop, and it really is continuous. This particular one is the style of drawing that I like, using just basically black ink on white paint, and then you would see the wire behind it in a kind of a framing manner, and that's my macrame or background that I like to incorporate as well. One of the things that you'll get me to say at least once is that many people have seen my work and not realize it's my work. If you walk inside of Avogadro's Number, which many people have, as soon as you go in the front door, there's 3 very large macrame pieces, the flat pieces. Yeah. And those are a piece I created in 1977, the fall of Inception.
So you're a part of Fort Collins history.
Yes. I've been involved with the art scene, the music scene, although not the regular music scene or the regular art scene. It's always been the different way of doing things, but that's the way I usually find myself doing it.
Well, Mark, it's been wonderful to talk with you, and thank you for participating in this virtual Masks show. In parting, I'd like to ask one last question, and that is, what do you most look forward to when the quarantine is lifted?
Being able to laugh close to friends again.
Yeah.
And to actually, I do miss going to look at art, and it's one of those things that you don't realize, no matter how often it is, that every time I go in and spend some time, especially if I am enjoying the art, how much time I like being there and how easy it is to spend that time with the art. And that's what I look forward to every year at the Masks show. Being an artist, of course, we wear a tag, and some people see it, many people don't, but it's kind of interesting to hang out and listen to what people say about the Masks. And I have found it to be a real good inspiration and a great joining of the artists in the community, a joining of it. I think it's a wonderful event, and I'm hoping it continues this year as well as next, of course.
Is there a place online where people can find more of your work?
Well, interestingly enough, probably not. It's one of my goals.
Well, hopefully you'll have time in the next couple of months to do that.
That's right. That's right. No excuses now. I had something else to do. No, you didn't. That's right.
Well, Mark, thanks again for being a part of the Artist to Artist show and the Masks show. It's been delightful to talk with you, and I will look forward to meeting you in person and to seeing more of your work in the future.
Thank you.
The other thing I was going to mention is I'm going to share a picture of the suit you made for your first album. Remember that suit that had the half was business and half was casual?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the inspiration for that piece of creativity.
Yeah, so my first album, I released it in, 2011. Mm-hmm. And it's called The Romantic and the Realist. And the idea behind that is that each of us have these different aspects to us, that, when put together, make a whole. And I do kind of, one of my big things that I believe in and see is that there's these different aspects that all of us have, kind of like the whole yin yang idea, angel on one shoulder, devil on the other. Different people have different ways of framing it, but basically none of us are just one thing.
Mama gave me roots, Daddy gave me wings. Mama gave me breath, Dad taught me to sing. Mama gave me air, Daddy gave me a feather. Mama knew the seasons, Dad knew the weather. Mama gave me roots, Daddy gave me wings. Mama gave me breath, Dad taught me to sing. Mama gave me sun, Daddy gave me shade. Mama was light, Dad knew what darkness weighed. Dad knew what darkness weighed. I am a head on an upside down tree. I am a branch in my family. Mama gave me roots, Daddy gave me wings. Mama gave me breath, Dad taught me to sing. Mama gave me air, Daddy gave me wings. Mama gave me breath, Dad taught me to sing. Dad taught me to sing. Dad taught me to sing.
The artist I'd like to present now is Alison Dickson. Alison, welcome to the Masks show. Have you participated in the Masks show before?
I have. I have participated 6 times, and this is my 7th.
So tell us about the gastropod. Where did your inspiration come from for that?
Well, the inspiration came from the fact that in my recent masks, I've been trying to conceal the actual ceramic shape of mask that I was provided with into something else that the viewer sees before they realize that it was a face. And so I love seashells. I've got a huge collection of them. And I thought, well, this one would be different. It wouldn't have eyes like my recent animal ones, but I love the shapes, the patterns, and the colors of seashells. And so I picked one that I thought would do well.
Are there any parts of this year that you found you got into the process and then were surprised by something?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I sketched what I wanted to happen on a flat surface, and that was all beautiful, fine, and good. And then once I sketched it onto the 3-dimensional raised mask, some of my curved lines didn't quite make as much sense. I had been doing some perspective, and the perspective was a little different when I went from 2D to 3D. So I had to adjust that.
Can you talk a little bit about, you've participated in, this is now your 7th show. Can you talk a little bit about the museum and its role in the art world in Fort Collins, and what are some of the benefits that you have gained personally from your relationship with the museum?
Well, first of all, I think it's fantastic that the museum is there at all, and that we have such a great resource here in town to for the local artists to integrate with and have a starting point for exhibitions and whatnot, but yet it also brings well-known people and well-known issues to bring awareness to the whole public of the town. So it's great for artists and non-artists, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Can you talk a little bit about other shows that you hopefully will be participating in the near future here in the area or elsewhere?
Okay. Last year, I participated in Blossoms and Butterflies, which was a great fundraiser for the Gardens on Spring Creek, and I'm thinking they're not having that this year. But moving on, I'm planning to participate in Estes Plein Air, which is an outdoor painting event in the Estes area in Rocky Mountain National Park later this summer, and as well in Steamboat Plein Air, which will be in October. I like to do a lot of plein air painting, and I'm in a Plein Air Artists of Colorado group, and we will be having a show at the Carnegie Center in November, kind of a group show of all our outdoor paintings that we will have created over the course of this year.
Alison, if people want to find more of your work, is there a place online where they can find it?
You bet. I have a website, AlisonDicksonArt.com. 1L and DICKSON. And I have an Instagram site as well for Alison Dickson Art, so I invite you to visit those.
And we will encourage people to do that. Alison, thank you for participating in the Artist to Artist show for the Masks show. And we will look forward to seeing you in person when the show is finally allowed to open to the public.
Well, we will look forward to that too. Thank you very much.
The new warrior needs no sword, for her heart is made of stillness, draws no borders and claims no flags, just expands her lungs with fullness. The weapons that she wields are compassion and insight. It's not a battle between the good guys and the bad guys. We all contain the shadows and the light. The new warrior lays down her pride and opens her heart to listen. Uses a quiver of words carefully, a century on a cushion. The weapons that she wields are compassion and insight. It's not a battle between the good guys and the bad guys. We all contain the shadows and the light. Take off your armor, let your light shine. Break down the barriers that are only in your mind. Take off your armor, let your light shine. Break down the barriers that are only in your mind. They're only in your mind. Only in your mind. They're only in your mind. Only in your mind. Heat of compassion can burn us up. Gotta temper it with cool wisdom. From that space we can understand the radical interdependence of our systems. The weapons that we wield all compassion and insight. It's not a battle between the good guys and the bad guys. We all contain the shadows and the light. We all contain the shadows and the light.
The artist that I would like to introduce now is Sabina Newton. This is Sabina's first time in the Masks show. I'd like to ask a little bit, Sabina, about what did it feel like when you found out that you were going to be able to participate in this year's Masks show?
I was very excited. I tried to do it last year and I missed the deadline of signing up. So I was very excited this year when I was able to do it because I went to an event about a year ago or 2 years ago and I saw the mask and I said to my husband, oh man, I need to do something like that. So, I mean, that was just like a real surprise. And when I registered, I was like excited when they said to me, they said, come pick up your mask. So, yeah.
So when you first got your blank mask, what kind of inspiration were you visited with when you first saw the shape of it and the different details of it? How did that work into being inspired?
When I first saw it, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had like so many ideas. It took me a long time to decide how I was going to do it, what I was going to do, because it's just so blank and you're just looking at it and you're saying, oh my God, what do I do with it? Mine came from darkness. I come from domestic violence, so I've had a very dark life. So in my mask, I used a lot of colors. I have a dancer in there. I mean, I have, I think, a mushroom. I have a lot of colors. A lot about mental health. I wanted to do a lot of ribbons on the mask. You know, at first, that was my first thing, is to do like, you know, different types of ribbons for domestic violence, cancer, and all that. So I went from darkness in my life to when I finally moved here to Colorado, and I got myself the help I needed for my issues, and I was able to see the light. I never thought I'd be married again, but here I am. I've been married 3 years. I met the greatest person. Didn't think it would happen, so I went from darkness to a lot of colors.
So the mask is really a reflection of your own personal coming back to life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
How did you end up with the look and the feel that you ended up with?
Let me tell you something. It kept mine busy because I'm thinking of what I'm going to put on it and how I'm going to finish it. So even going to bed at night when I was doing it, it was like, while I was trying to fall asleep, that's what I was thinking of is, oh my God, what's my next step now? It was just like when I wrote my book, what was my next step after writing and stuff. And, you just take it from one step on.
Tell us a little bit about your book.
My book is called I Wouldn't Want Anybody to Walk in My Shoes. It's about my domestic violence from being a young child all the way up until about a few years ago. Grew up, when I say domestic violence, I mean nothing sexual. My dad was a very big man, and, he was the boss. When he hit you, you got hit. I got hit. He 400 pounds. So I went from being a kid, being to domestic violence, to being a wife in domestic violence and in another relationship. So for 20 years, I isolated myself till I came to Colorado. I came to Colorado because to get my son the help he needed. And once I got him his help, I got my own help. And I joined Spirit Crossing Clubhouse, which is through Summit Stone Health Partners. And they are terrific. So I've come a long way. And I would never be able to do this 10 years ago. This would not have been an option. I used to be 300 and something pounds. And, with the help of Spirit Crossing, I was able, and therapy. I can't forget therapy, it's, yeah. So, it's a good thing. I'm in a good place, and I just love where I'm at right now.
Is there a place online where people can find you?
It's on Amazon, has it. And one day I just happened to be looking through Walmart.com in their book section, and there it was. And I think it's like $10.
Well, very
so
good.
Yeah, and it's real. It just talks about my recovery and the step before I got everything before I got married. So it's really good.
I just am very happy to notice that your mask and the colorful vibrancy is a really wonderful reflection of your own transformation. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I also wanted to share with you a post that I hope provides some inspiration in these difficult times that is called 10,000 Joys and 10,000 Sorrows. Buddha once said everyone would experience 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows in their lifetime. I came across that quote the other day, and the number jolted me. It sounded so high. I mean, it's not hard to imagine 10,000 joys if you think of a joy as finding a pretty feather on the ground or eating a really good meal. But it was nearly impossible to wrap my head around 10,000 sorrows. That seemed so daunting. Must we really bear so much? But then I ask myself why sorrows have to feel so much bigger than joys. Maybe our sorrows can be simple too, like feeling sad when a friend cancels a coffee date, or when you find mold in your bowl of strawberries. Maybe sorrow doesn't have to refer only to the biggest, hardest things we endure. There will be immense joys, like the birth of a child or the moment you're handed that diploma, and immense sorrows, like the loss of a loved one or the betrayal of a close friend. But if you can start to see life as a balance, you come to understand in any given day you can experience sorrow and joy, and they can live comfortably side by side. In some ways, I think artists are more affected by this roller coaster than many people. Just going through my email on a Monday morning brings a constant stream of joys and sorrows. Oh yay, a new book order. Oh no, my speaking gig fell through. Oh yay, I just signed a new business partner. Oh no, I didn't get the acceptance. For far too long, I took only passing notice of the joys and dwelled for hours on the sorrows. What could I have done differently, I wondered. Why didn't that person like my work? Did I drop the ball somewhere? Why did I put myself out there when I should have known it was a long shot? The joys seemed to be only momentary confirmation my hard work had paid off. The sorrows felt like heavy mistakes. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm taking a moment to feel the joy and a moment to experience the sorrow. And then I'm releasing them both back to the universe. They are all part and parcel of doing business and living our lives. Sometimes the joy leads us to great new places, and sometimes they turn out to be nothing. Sometimes the sorrows bring an end to something we cared about, and sometimes they free up space for something better to come along. It's not my job anymore to question what either of those things means, or to spend all my time hoping and praying for the joys and beating myself up over the sorrows. I understand now you can't have one without the other, and neither is better or more important. They just are.
The next artist that I'd like to introduce you to is Bob Coonts, and Bob is a person who has been in the Fort Collins art scene for many, many years. This is not your first mask show.
No, I've done all of them.
You have been one of the few that has actually been from the very beginning.
From the very beginning, yeah.
And how have you seen the show evolve over the years? What are some of the things that that you've seen happen to the show as it's grown and changed?
Well, the primary thing is the community involvement, and how it's become a real big thing, I think, for the community. And we have a lot of people turn out for the show, and we have far more mask designers now and than we had in the beginning. And artists are turning out for that too. And I think the work has improved over time greatly, and it's something we all look forward to.
This year, when you got your blank mask, where did you find the inspiration for what ultimately became your finished work?
Last year, I settled on the old woman who lives in a shoe, a nursery rhyme kind of thing, and so I thought, well, I'll stick with nursery rhymes, and I happened to land on this one. One of the three little pigs. So it was fun. And so I settled on it pretty quickly. I always do that in working out my thumbnails, and then I have to try to figure out how to do it.
What was your process this year?
I work with air-hardened clay sometimes, and so in doing this little pig's face, I build up the eyebrows, I build up the snout of the pig, and had an open mouth, and cheeks were involved, I think. And anyway, that's what I do first. I build it up to what I think is pretty believable, and then let it harden really well. And then I use epoxy and epoxy it to the mask itself. Then I start the painting process. And I usually do a thumbnail again in color, worked out some color ideas and thoughts. And then I wanted to create this little house that it lived in. And so I placed the mask against a piece of plywood, I think it was, cut to the shape of a house. And then I just built up the sides and everything with balsa wood and some soft woods. And then painted everything to make it look like planking, and color of the roof and so forth from a side view. That was my process. And I just I don't know. I just sort of create this vision of what I think it should be, and then I go for it. Usually my way of working, I always have to put myself into a deadline jam. And I drive myself crazy doing that, but it's the way I work best under pressure. And so I had it completely painted, constructed and painted at one point, and the deadline was like 5 the next day on a Sunday.
Wow.
And at 2:30 in the morning or something like that, I looked at it and I said, no, this isn't working the way I want it to work. I got up the next morning and I repainted the entire thing.
Oh.
And to my satisfaction. I mean, it was, I wanted something that looked a little more stressed looking. What I had painted first looked like a brand new house, and I don't know. I wanted it a little more distressed and stressed looking. So that's what I did. And so then I delivered it at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Well, that deadline served you well.
Oh my! I drive myself and my wife crazy, I think, a little bit by doing that.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for participating in this particular project, and thanks for being willing to go into the experiment with us.
You bet. Okay.
Artist to Artist show. And I will look forward to seeing you again in person, hopefully in July at Driven to Abstraction.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you again, meeting you again, talking with you. Look forward to it. All right.
Thank you, Bob.
Have a good day. Stay safe.
Tell us a little bit about the songs that you've chosen to share for this video project.
Yeah, so it was about half older songs and half newer songs. I'm getting ready to put out my 4th record here shortly. Originally, I was planning on putting it out at the beginning of June, and I'm kind of revisiting the timeline right now with COVID-19, just kind of wanting to give it its best opportunity for success and reaching a wide audience. But getting back to the songs, about half of them are songs from that album, and the other half are songs that I've written in the last couple of weeks. Because guess what? The silver lining in this is, hey, I'm getting to stay at home. Here I am in my music room, got all these instruments around me, and I'm getting an opportunity to write some new songs. One thing that I've been exploring as an artist lately is the whole conception of needing to be ultra inspired to create art, and coming from this place where you're like, where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down here, make a pot of coffee, pull out my pen, pull out my guitar, and I'm just going to make something happen. And at first it might seem like you're forcing it, but eventually something will click, and then you'll get more into that artistic space. So yeah, to sum it up, the songs that I've included for this show, it's half slightly older songs that are going to be on the new album, and half songs that I've written during this quarantine.
Her mother's eyes shining and bright, hair like a father's, dark as the night. Born in the summer, 21st, strawberry moon, no silver spark, no silver spoon. But the what she inherits, but better than the one today. This is what haunts me at night when I should be sleeping, but I just lay. What will we tell her to justify the selfish behavior? Put a Cheeto on stage who puts kids in a cage. This is what is left. Her mother smiled, sun to the bloom, laugh like our fathers could light up the moon. Autumn of youth, soft summer glow, burning hope, not my faded echo. With the world she inherits, but better than the one today. This is what haunts me at night when I should be sleeping, but I just lay. What will we tell her to justify the selfish behavior? Put a Cheeto on stage who puts kids in a cage. This is what is left. Her parents trained, but not for life of their own, but a better existence for her and her brother when they are full grown. With the world she inherits, but better than the one today. This is what haunts me at night when I should be sleeping, but I just lay. What will we tell her to justify the selfish behavior? Put a Cheeto on stage who puts kids in a cage. This is what is left. The world she inherits, but better than the one today. We borrow the future from her, but she will be the one who will pay. What she inherits, be better than the one today. This is what haunts me at night when I should be sleeping, but I just lay.
The artist that I'd like to introduce now is Lenina Olivas from Loveland. And Lenina, welcome to the Mask Artist to Artist show. Can you tell us a little bit about your participation in the Mask show? Is this the first year that you've done it?
Correct. This is my first year, and I've been to the exhibit quite a few times. And this year, or I guess I should say last year, I thought, maybe I should try that out.
When you first got your blank mask, what did you think about that?
Well, when I opened it, I saw it, and that's when it was real. I was like, okay, I've got X amount of months to figure out my design. And I read all the instructions. I always read the instructions first. And then I was like, okay, now I have to figure out what my design will be. The thing that threw a wrench in my plan was it said use acrylic or watercolor, and oil wasn't really something that was recommended. And I'm mainly an oil painter, so that was a little difficult for me. So I definitely had to think outside of the box.
So what medium did you end up using?
Well, I ended up using acrylic.
What were the challenges of using acrylic as opposed to oil?
Well, acrylic dries faster, and if I make a mistake, I can't easily go back and erase it. I have to wait till it dries and then paint over it. So that's something that I'm not really used to. And what was also very challenging was I'm used to a canvas, which is flat, and this had bumps because it's a face. So that was something I didn't really expect, or, I mean, I knew it was going to be a mask, but I guess now that it was in front of me, I was like, okay, this is going to be a little bit different. So it was challenging.
Where did you find your inspiration for the mask that you ended up making?
Well, since I'm usually I am an oil painter, this time I did abstract art. And I'll go back how I discovered this sort of technique. So it's an abstract, but I don't use a paintbrush. I actually painted the mask with my breast. So I had found, this was quite a few years back, a Russian artist who painted with her breast, and she made beautiful works of art. So I thought, hey, that would be pretty cool. Maybe one day I'll try that. So that was just something that stuck in the back of my brain. And when I started experimenting with different mediums. I tried watercolor, didn't like it. Tried acrylic, wasn't a fan. Then I got to oil. So I had all of this stuff in my basement, and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? And one day it dawned on me, hey, now that you have canvases and all this paint, why don't you try painting with your breast or expressive body art? And so I looked for an instructor or small group classes, and this might blow your mind, but there aren't any. So I figured, okay, this is just going to be an experiment. So I experimented with a few different styles and different colors, and so I figured out the process, and I like 2 or 3 colors, and then that's kind of, anymore it gets a little muddled. So anyway, it's a fun process. It's a very cleansing process. It's kind of like a process you do, and then it's more like a meditation, and then you can start painting whatever you choose. If it's just the abstract, or then you go to a painting of a landscape or a wine bottle. But so I thought, okay, I'm gonna do the abstract. So I really had to focus on color. So what colors was I going to choose? And so once I decided I was going to do it, then I chose my colors. And like I said, the mask was a little bit different than the canvas. And it was very different to get in the nose and the eyes, because it's more body art than paintbrush. So that was a little bit challenging, but it was really fun. And I had to wait for a few days for it to dry and then change it up a little bit, but it was really fun.
What do you call your mask?
I called it the Consciousness of Eve.
Lenina, it's really nice to talk with you, and I appreciate your participation in the Artist to Artist show, and we appreciate your contribution to this year's mask show. So thank you for participating.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been really, really fun.
Before we finish up, I know that you've been doing a lot of live shows on your Facebook page, and I want to make sure that people are aware of those. And I also want them to be able to find you online. Where's your website, and where can people find you?
Yeah. So my website is AntonioLopezMusic.com. And the Facebook Lives, I've been doing those Thursday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And my Facebook page is Antonio Lopez Music. I know it's a little bit of a scavenger hunt, because there's a lot of Antonio Lopez's in the world, but you'll find me, I promise.
Put the music on the end, and they should find you fairly quick. Huh?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Antonio, thank you so much for being our featured musician for the Mask Show 2020. And I will look forward to the time when I can see you again in person.
Yeah, looking forward to that, Franklin.
Thanks, man.
Inability to find the words doesn't change the way I feel. I love my crazy family, and I always will. I know I seldom call on the phone, and at times you feel all alone. You're on my mind more than you know, walking beside me wherever I go. Yet on our paths we march alone. The hurt of the past is frost on our bones. To hold it in is to drown in the well. It's time to listen to each other and the truth that we tell. Days turn to weeks, weeks into years. The lump in my throat is words nobody hears. Still hope springs inside my chest, trickling through the cracks of the mass. We share with blood cells what ones too. I wanna share my world with you. I wanna share hope, even despair. 'Cause without love, what is there? Yet on our paths we march alone. The hurt of the past is frost on our bones. To hold it in is to drown in the well. It's time to listen to each other and the truth that we tell. If I drove all through the night, showed up at your door, would you let me in to talk? Or would you say that you've heard it all before? Yet on our paths we march alone. The hurt of the past is frost on our bones. To hold it in is to drown in the well. It's time to listen to each other and the truth that we tell. It's time to listen.
Our next interview is going to be with Danny Feig Sandoval, and this is his first time participating in the Mask concert. Welcome, Danny.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So tell me a little bit about when you first received your blank mask. Where did your inspiration come from for the mask that you ultimately created?
Well, what I thought of, the thing that came to my mind was one of my favorite songs, a song by the Grateful Dead called Ripple, Ripple. And so the theme for my mask is Ripple in Still Water. And I've always liked the idea, well, I hadn't really thought of it this way, but I thought of it as, when you're trying to create something like peace in the world, you got to start at home and it kind of ripples out, and you hope that there's some kind of ripple effect in the effort of trying to bring about change. And so that started to evolve in my head of how that was going to happen. It wasn't all there at first, but I knew there was something in that. And really the bigger part of that was I had for many years been saving all of my old guitar strings, and knowing one day I'm going to have an art project. And I was in the home remodeling business for 40 years, so I have saved hundreds of keys that I had from people's houses that we changed the locks after the project. So I had all these keys. I said, I'm going to use these for something. So I've started to put together in my head that the keys of music can open the locked doors to peace. And that was kind of my theme. And so I put that with Ripple in Still Water, and so it kind of evolved from there.
Tell me a little bit more about the process that you used to actually construct the mask.
Well, I had to figure out things like the mouth, which has the teeth are piano keys. The nose is just a big nose, which I made out of wood. The mouth I made out of wood. The ears, one of the lines is, if my tunes were played on the harp unstrung. So the ears are wooden harps that I made, little harps. So they have the strings in them, but those are the harps. And then the eyes, I made these little guitars. So these two guitars are the eyes. And then the eyebrows and the hair are, I probably have 1,000 holes I had to drill in this thing underwater. You have to get this thing wet to drill the holes. So the guitar strings are the hair, as are the eyebrows that come off the guitar. And on the end of each string, I found these little musical notes from confetti, like confetti notes. And I just glued at the end of each little guitar string an eyebrow. So there's a whole musical theme in it that, and then the keys are part of a neck, I don't even know what you call it, like a neck collar. The keys, and then I found these little letters at the hobby store spelled out, the keys of music can open the locked doors to peace. So they put all that together. I think those are mostly the parts of it.
When it was all said and done, what were you happiest about with the creation that you'd made?
I like the colors that just kind of came out of it. They look pretty it's very colorful, but the bigger picture of it, I love the hair. I mean, the hair with the musical notes on the end of it they really worked out well. I just was so excited about it that they actually stayed on there. I hope they stayed on there. I don't know how long the glue is going to hold up, but that and the little musical instruments, I think it all came together.
I've enjoyed talking with you, and I'm just delighted that you have consented to be a part of this show. And I'll look forward to seeing you in person when we're able to bring masks to the public.
Yeah, let's make that happen.
Don't wear shirts with sleeves anymore. Doesn't want his heart to show. Goosebumps on his arms, walking down the street, listening to the black rose. No matter how loud the music, it can't drown out her words. A glisten in his eye, hollow in his chest. The last 2 weeks a blur. The rudimentary logic of a fragile human heart. Like stepping on Legos, walking in the dark. When the pain starts fading and the healing starts, that's where he found that tender spark. The rudimentary logic of a fragile human heart. No more cream in his coffee, he just drinks it black. His bitter mood matches the bitter taste. He's an angry yellow jacket. He thought their thing was solid. Lord knows both of them tried. He thought it ended like a Nick Sparks novel. He thought she'd be his bride. The rudimentary logic of a fragile human heart. Like stepping on Legos, walking in the dark. When the pain starts fading and the healing starts, that's where he found that tender spark. The rudimentary logic of a fragile human heart. Trading Netflix for the vinyl, his remote for a guitar. The open chords soothe his fractured heart. He knows 3 of them so far. He sees a poster in the window, an open mic next week. Maybe he'll sing some Dylan or he'll sing some Young, whatever in the moment he speaks. The rudimentary logic of a fragile human heart. Like stepping on Legos, walking in the dark. When the pain starts fading and the healing starts, it's where he found that tender spark. The rudimentary logic of a fragile human heart. The rudimentary logic of a fragile human heart.
The artist I'd like to present now is Yaz Haldeman, and Yaz moved to Fort Collins just over a year ago from Portland, Oregon, and this is her first masks show, although she said that she and her mother volunteered to be in the masks show as helpers last year. So they were excited to be chosen to be a part of the show this year. Yaz, welcome to the Artist to Artist concert.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about how did you get interested in applying for the mask show after your experience last year?
Well, to be honest with you, we had never really seen anything quite like the mask show last year. We came into the museum as tourists and just kind of stumbled upon the show, and we were so taken aback by just the variety of creativity and expressiveness that we just thought we had to be involved in some way. And so we were able to apply, and we were selected for this year. And so it was just super exciting to be a part of something so collaborative. Even though everyone is working on their masks independently, the overall sort of outcome and messages that come across are just phenomenal. And so it's an exciting way to be a part of the Fort Collins community, the art community.
So when you picked up that blank mask, what was the process for you in terms of finding inspiration for your design?
Well, it was interesting because I had been so sort of fixated on the shape of the blank sort of canvas mask, as you would say, that they worked on the year that we stumbled upon the museum. So I had that shape in my mind. When I opened the box, much to my surprise, it was a completely different shape. And so the inspiration really kind of came from the more rounded moon-like shape of the mask and its blank kind of, clay form. So that was what inspired me, I think, ultimately.
So tell me a little bit about your mask design is very, very colorful. Can you talk a little bit about how the colors came to you, and was that from more experimentation, or did you have a more clear idea in your mind of how you wanted it to look?
I think I had an idea that I kind of wanted to go with maybe a moon theme or a celestial theme, something with the color blue. And then as I was working with the color blue, it kind of dawned on me, blue in the face. And so that is kind of a play on not just the colors that I chose, but also some struggles that I've had personally with anxiety. And so I just found that to sort of manifest organically as I was working with color and shape.
Can you talk a little bit about the process that you used to, most of what you've done is painting, is that correct?
I actually did build on the surface of the clay mask with a lot of tissue paper and glue to kind of build a structure and kind of tweak the face to kind of come alive more, so to speak. And so there was some building with glue and paper, as well as then acrylic paint, and also then I finished it with like a sealant that gave it kind of a high gloss finish.
What are the differences in the contours of the face from what you started with?
I built up the cheeks, and I kind of wanted to create that feeling of holding your breath. Often when I'm anxious, that's sort of how I feel, like I can't breathe or I can't catch my breath. And so I really wanted to kind of demonstrate that with building out bigger cheeks and kind of shaping the mouth a little bit more to exaggerate the idea that maybe this person is holding their breath or just maybe can't breathe very well.
Can you tell me a little bit about anxiety as an experience? Have you ever used art as a way of working through that or expressing it?
Definitely. I in fact, in more recent years, after experiencing some anxiety for the first time, or I should say maybe actual panic attacks or panic, I did start participating in a group, art therapy group. And in that group, I really kind of discovered I had always made art prior to that, but I wasn't making it with the idea that it would somehow heal or aid in my healing process, or a process to sort of calm my mind. And so with those tools that I picked up in that art therapy class, I really started kind of funneling more of my feeling and emotion and maybe mental health into my art more so than I had in the past.
I appreciate so much you're participating in the Artist to Artist show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
I took you out on a picnic. You want to walk in the park. The bread was too light, the chocolate too dark. All those stinky cheeses, that fancy French wine. I spent all my money trying to make you mine. You said that it was too much too soon. You said that it was too much too soon. I wrote you a 10-page letter. You sent me back a sticky note. You said that it was too much too soon. I spread a Mr. Mark Cologne on the pages. Used the wax seal too. All that romance don't mean nothing if you don't love me too. You said that it was too much too soon. It was too much too soon. I sent you a dozen roses, like the commercial said to do. You said that it was too much too soon. Spent the extra bucks on the vase, flower food too. All that romance don't mean nothing if you don't love me too. Drove past your place, hoping to stop and say, how are you? But you were saying goodbye, kissing someone new. You said that it was too much too soon. It was too much too soon. You said that it was too much too soon. It was too much too soon. Something different, something real. to explain just how I feel. Something different, something real, something to explain just how I feel.